Hello, welcome to your video on factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. You'll notice that there's an a in front of the x squared, which just means it's a number other than 1. And by the end, you will be able to factor trinomials in this form. The first question is, how do we factor? That is the only question. There's just a couple variations that we'll take a look at. But before I show you exactly how to do this, I want you to understand what's happening here. So I'll give you an example. Let's go with 6x squared plus 23x plus 7. And I want to break that down for you a little bit more. 6x squared plus 2x plus 21x plus 7. So I took that 23x and broke it down into two different terms. And when I take a look at these two sets, really is what we have here, the first two numbers, I can factor out a 2x, and that would become 3x plus 1. And in the second set, I can factor out a 7, which would give me 3x plus 1. And you can see here that the 3x plus 1 appears in both instances, which means we can say that 2x plus 7 is one of, and then 3x plus 1 is the other, using the distributive property. You're probably wondering why I chose to use the 2x and the 21x to break apart the 23x compared to anything else. And you might notice when you multiply the 2 times the 21, you will get an answer of 42, the product of 42, which is the product of the A term and the C term. So when you're looking to break this apart, you should look for the factors of the product of the A and C term that have a sum of your B term. Knowing that, we're going to take a look at our first problem and find the factored form of 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. So the first thing you're going to want to do, like I mentioned, is find the factors of A times C. So A times C is 10, so I'm looking for the factors of 10 and the sum of the factors. In this case, I would have 2 and 5, and that would give me a sum of 7. I would also have 1 and 10, which would give me a sum of 11. And the sum should be your B term. So here is the numbers that we're using. So we're going to break this apart. So now we have 5x squared plus 10x plus 1x plus 2. Now, it kind of does matter which way you rewrite it. So you're going to have to kind of work and see which way is going to figure it out. If I write it out this way, I would factor out a 5x, which would give me x plus 2. But then when I go to factor out this, there isn't really anything that's helpful. So I'm going to have to rewrite it the other way instead, so that it's more useful information. So I'm going to rewrite this, having the 1 come first. So 1x plus 10x plus 2. Now I break it apart. This would become 5x plus 1. And then this part would become x, 2x. And then 2, not 2x, 2. And then this would become 5x plus 1. And you notice you get the same number there, and that's what should happen if you do it right. So then your solution would be, I can't even write, 5x plus 1 in parentheses being multiplied x by x plus 2. Taking those two on the outside there to get the answer. I'll do another question for you, another problem. This one, we're going to follow the same format. So I am looking for a way to break this apart, and I don't know what that is, so I have to find the factors of negative 45 and then find the sum. So factors of negative 45 would be 1 and then negative 45, and that would give me a sum of negative 44. I have 3 and negative 15. That would give me a sum of negative 12. Again, I could flip-flop positive and negative here, but I know those aren't going to work, so I'm going to keep going. Negative 5 and 9, and then that would give me a sum of 4, which is what I'm looking for, because that's my B term. So now I know I'm going to break it apart that way. So here we go. 3x squared plus, I shouldn't say plus, minus 5x plus 9x minus 15. Break it apart here. So chunk of this part and this part. And factor out our greatest common factor. So that would be x, which makes this 3x minus 5. And in the next part, we can factor out a 3, making this 3x minus 5. Got the same number there, which we should, which means our final answer will be 3x minus 5, and then x plus 3, using the distributive property. The next question is, how do you factor out a monomial first? So sometimes you'll be given a question like the one that you see here, 18x squared minus 33x plus 12. And you might notice that 3 goes into each of these numbers. 3 is divisible by 18, 33, and 12. So when that happens, you're going to factor out that 3 right away. So now this would be 3, and then in parentheses, 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. And you're going to leave that 3 alone. Now you're going to break this apart. Now we're back to like normal with what the other parts were in the video. And so we have to find a 6 and a 4, the sum or the factors of 24 then. And you'll make a list and then find the sums. So factors of 24, 1 and 24 will give me 24. Positive, negatives, again, you could do both negative. That's not going to get you the answer though. You could do negative 2 and negative 12. That would give you sum of negative 14. Negative 3 and negative 8 would give you a sum of negative 11. And that's what you're looking for. So you're going to break this apart now. And you're going to leave the 3 there with it, but you're kind of going to ignore it at the same time. So now I have my 6x squared minus 3x minus 8x plus 4 is the next part that you're going to do. And then this is just normal stuff now. We're going to factor out. So chunk it. This would become 3x would get factored out, and then you would be left with 2x minus 1. And factor out from here, and you would factor out a negative 4, and then you would be left with 2x minus 1. And then your final answer would be 3 on the outside. Don't forget about that 3. And then parentheses 3x minus 4, which comes from these two numbers, and then your 2x minus 1. And this right here is your final answer. It is your turn. There are 2 questions for you. Be sure you're showing all of your work. There is quite a bit to show. And then check in with me for the answers. The answers are there for you in green. Keep in mind that you can use the FOIL, the box method, or distributing to check your work. That is a great strategy, as there are lots of steps to these. that is the end of your video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, be sure to ask in class. Have a great day.